Everyone, welcome back to another Taehyung Little FF episode. I hope you will love it. When Jungkook couldn't escape the torment in his mind, he decided to just fall asleep in Taehyung's arm. Taehyung soon did the same, still holding the boy close to him. A few hours later, they were startled awake by a loud thud. Jungkook looked behind the couch and gasped. His mother had collapsed on the floor. "Mom!" he cried out. He climbed over to the couch and ran up to her. He put his ear up to her chest. Her heart was beating, but she was noticeably warm. He put a hand up to her forehead. She was burning up. He affectionately called out on his phone and dialed 911. 911, what's emergency? The dispatcher spoke. I need an ambulance. My mom is unconscious and I think she has a fever. Taehyung stood just a few feet behind Jungkook. He didn't know what to do, but he still wanted to help in any way he could. As he waited for an ambulance, they sat down next to Jungkook. I don't want to lose her, Jungkook cried. Taehyung hugged him tightly, knowing exactly what Jungkook was feeling. Jungkook's mom woke up a little when the paramedic was taking her to the ambulance on the stretcher, but she was too dazed. She could hardly respond to any of their questions. They allowed Jungkook to come with her, but Taehyung had to stay behind. Jungkook told him to stay at his place still and that they would be back soon as possible. Jungkook mom Taehyung watched as the ambulance drove off down the road in a hurry. He headed back inside the locked around and now empty house. He knew Jungkook wanted him to stay, but he couldn't help but feel like was intruding. They went back to the couch and watched some TV to try and get his mind off things. About an hour later, his phone started to receive message after message. Within a span of 5 minutes, thinking it was Jungkook, they picked it up and read the text. Then he realized it was from his dad. Why aren't you home? Where are you? Freaking answer me. Taehyung's hands shook as he typed back, I'm at a friend's house. Second later, he received more message. Don't lie to me, you don't have friends. Come home now. Taehyung started to hyperventilate. His phone continued to go off, but he didn't dare read them. He clenched his phone across the room and wrapped himself up in a tight ball. His phone started to ring. He put his hands over his ear and squeezed his eyes shut. Go away, he thought to himself, just go away. When Taehyung woke up next day, the first thing he did was find his phone and see if he get any messages from Jungkook. He turned it on to see about 20 more messages from his dad and even 3 missed calls. He ignored those messages and looked for any notification from Jungkook. There was one text sent 2 hours ago. Hey Taehyung, my mom is sick with a high fever. The doctor suspected it's from overworking. She will be okay, but she is gonna have to stay here for a bit. I will be home later today, but if you are hungry, please help yourself to some food in the fridge. Taehyung was quickly to reply. Hey Jungkook, I'm sorry what happened. I'm here for whatever you need. I hope your mom makes a quick recovery. Thanks. Send the text and put his phone in the pocket. He stretches while giving a yawn. He made his way to the kitchen, made himself a bowl of cereal, Lucky Charms, and ate at the counter. Once he was finished, he decided to clean up a bit. Whenever his mom was sick, he would do the best he could to help out around the house. He remembered trying to sweep when the broom was taller than he was, almost falling into the washing machine while doing laundry, and tripping over the carpet multiple times when he would drag it out to shake out the dirt. They started with the counters, then moved on to the dishes. He swept the floor and even took out the trash. Next, he moved on to the living room, which really only needed to be vacuumed. He went ahead and straightened up the pillows as well as he wandered around the place looking for anything else to clean. He came across Jungkook's room. He peeked inside and decided it wouldn't hurt to clean that up as well. He picked up all the dirty clothes and threw them onto the laundry basket. Now he had a floor. After that, he made Jungkook's bed and straightened up his bookshelf. By the time he was done, he heard the front door open. They propped his head out the door to see Jungkook taking off his shoes at the door. Taehyung walked up to the blonde and gave him a small smile while waving. Jungkook looked up and smiled back, but it was a sad smile. "Hey Taehyung," Jungkook choked. His eyes were red and puffy. He looked exhausted too. Jungkook noticed things looked a bit different and looked around. "Taehyung, did you?" He looked over at the boy with that questionable look. Jungkook didn't need to finish his sentence. Taehyung gave him a big smile and nodded his head. "Oh, you didn't have to do all this." Taehyung shrugged. Still smiling, Jungkook smiled and hugged him tightly. "Thank you. Did you eat?" he asked, pulling away. Taehyung nodded. Just then, Jungkook's stomach started to growl. Taehyung knew Jungkook didn't eat dinner last night and he mostly likely didn't eat at hospital. They took Jungkook's sleeve and took him to the kitchen. "I'm not hungry," Jungkook said. Taehyung gave him a look that said "really?" and handed him the box of cereal and Lucky Charms from earlier. Jungkook sighed and took the box. "All right, fine," Jungkook said. Taehyung smiled and got him a bowl of his spoon. Jungkook got the milk and prepared his bowl. The two boys sat at the counter together. Both kept their phones out so that they could talk. While Jungkook was eating, sure enough, Taehyung sent him a text. "How's your mom?" "She's fine, I guess," Jungkook said, looking down at his bowl. "But if she keeps doing that to herself, she's not gonna be." He slowly stirred his spoon around the bowl a few times. "I'm gonna go into town and see if I can get a job." Jungkook looked up at Taehyung. "You wanna come with?" Taehyung smiled and nodded, then sent him a text. "You should apply at the coffee shop. I saw a help wanted sign while we were walking the other day." "Really? Cool. Thanks, Taehyung," Jungkook said, excited. He ate the last few bites and of his cereal and places his empty bowl in the sink. Taehyung put the milk and cereal away. Then they both put their sneakers on and headed out the door straight to the town. As they were walking, Taehyung's phone went off. It was his dad again. He sighed through his nose and shoved his phone back into the pocket. Jungkook wanted to ask who it was but didn't want to intrude. Eventually, they arrived at the coffee shop. It was a cute small building consisting of bricks wall and plants on every table. The two boys went inside and found out the worker at the counter. Jungkook took a deep breath and wiped the sweat off his hands. He felt his phone vibrate in his hand and looked at the screen. You can do this. A message from Taehyung read. Jungkook smiled and looked up at Tae. Thanks, he said. He took another deep breath, headed straight for the counter and had a seat at one of the stools. Taehyung sat down next to him. A boy with the short hair and a cute puppy eyes looked behind him and smiled at them. He looked at to be about their age. His name tag read Park Jimin. Hello, he greeted. What can I get for you two? Guys, actually, Jungkook started. I was wondering if I could apply for a job here. Oh, of course. Let me talk to the boss and he can probably take you in and for an interview right away. Be right back. With that, Jimin disappeared around the counter. Interview. Jungkook whispered to himself. He wiped the sweat off of his hand and on his jeans again. Then quickly typed on his phone. You will do great. Just be honest and everything will be fine. Thanks, Taehyung, Jungkook said, already feeling a little better. This your first time applying for a job? Yeah, actually, Jungkook said, sounding a little guilty. What's wrong? Well, it's just if I had stopped playing around and gotten a job sooner, then maybe my mom wouldn't have gotten sick like this. She did. Taehyung frowned and he started to type again. Jungkook, don't blame yourself. Her condition is out of your control. Please don't be hard on yourself. Jungkook sighed but smiled a little. Thanks, Taehyung. I'm lucky to have a friend like you. He hugged Taehyung, who happily hugged back. Just then Jimin wiped around the corner. Come on in. He beamed. Jungkook nearly jumped in his seat. Oh, okay, he replied. He looked over at Taehyung once again. Taehyung gave him a wave. Jungkook smiled and walked behind the counter, following with Jimin to the boss office. 15 minutes went by before Jungkook returned. Taehyung looked up from his phone and smiled. He hopped off the stool and stood before Jungkook, waiting for the big news. I got the job, Jungkook said, excited. Taehyung snickered with joy and hugged his friend. Congratulations, Jimin cheered. I will be seeing you tomorrow at 3. Thanks, Jimin, Jungkook replied with a big smile. No problem, but I don't think I got your name. Oh, Jungkook, he said, stretching out hand. Jimin smiled and shook it. Nice to meet you, Jungkook. Can I get you boys something before you go? I'm good. You want anything there? Jungkook asked him, blushed at the nickname and shook his head. Okay, see you around, Jimin, Jungkook said, waving as they walk out. Bye, Jimin waved back. Jungkook hopped down the 3-step and cheer. Yes, once he got to the bottom, I did it. Taehyung giggled and walked beside him. Type another message for the blonde. We should celebrate, Jungkook smiled. How about brownies? We can make them at my place. Taehyung nodded enthusiastically, but his smile quickly faded when he saw a familiar truck pull up right next to him, and out came his father, Taehyung. Mr. Kim shouted. He slammed the truck door behind him and stormed his way right up to the boy. Taehyung went wide eyes and grew pale. Jungkook was equally. Who was this angry man yell at his friend like this? Mr. Kim pointed his truck inside now, he said through gritted teeth. Taehyung immediately obeyed like a scolded puppy and went over to the truck. He put his hand on the handle of the door when Jungkook spoke up. Taehyung, who is this? He demanded. Mr. Kim looked at him with a scroll-led expression. I'm his father and I suggest you to stay out of other people's business, he growled. He then turned his attention back to Taehyung, who was looking at Jungkook worried. Get in, he yelled. Taehyung flinched and quickly opened the door. He sat in his seat and looked down at his lap as he waited to be brought back home. Mr. Kim climbed onto the driver's seat and sat down on the road. Jungkook watched them go with a stern expression. This could not be good. Thanks, Dad was silent the whole drive home. His hand gripped onto the steering wheel so firmly that his clutches were white. The car dragged at them, telling him to back up, but Taehyung didn't budge. Maybe they would crash and he would go through the window. Then he would be with his mother again. Jungkook waited again. The truck was completely out of the view. Pulled out his phone. He had to make a call. The phone rang only once before he got an answer. 911. What's your emergency? Yes, my friend is in danger. When the police arrived at Taehyung's house, two of them went up to the front door and knocking. Meanwhile, a third officer started to make his way around back in case the suspected criminal tried to make a run for it out of the back door. Mr. Kim saw the police car coming from the blocks away from the window. He didn't answer the door, but he didn't try to run away either. Instead, it was Taehyung who dared out the back. He knew that if he stayed, he would be taken away to an unfamiliar place full of strangers, either an orphanage or some foster house. He couldn't bear that sort of change, even if it didn't mean being taken away from the monster. They didn't make it far, only a few feet away from the small backyard. The overwhelming pain in his sides and stomach brought him to his knees in a gun. He suddenly felt it almost impossible to breathe. The officer quickly caught up to him and waited beside him until paramedics took him out on a stretcher to an ambulance. At hospital, they did an MRI on Taehyung to make sure there wasn't no internal bleeding. Luckily for there wasn't, but after an X-ray was done, it was shown that he had fractured two ribs on his left side. Surgery wouldn't be needed as it was minor enough to be healed on his own. Jungkook was furious when he found out the Taehyung's test. And you are sure that you wasn't any internal bleeding, right? Jungkook texted. Yes, good. That passed a better route in prison. I can't believe he did this. Jungkook, yeah, I'm probably never gonna see you again after this. Jungkook's heart escaped a beat. Taehyung, sure, we will see each other. I'm sure CPS will take you to a foster house here in town, and if not, I'm sure my mom would probably drive me over for a visit. Taehyung couldn't respond. He didn't plan on going with CPS. He sighed and turned his phone off and put it in his pocket. He shifted in his hospital bed and took a look out the window until he heard a knock on the door. "Hey there, champ." A man with a curled red hair greeted him. The man walked up to Taehyung's bedside holding a clipboard. "My name Mark. I work with CPS. I'm just going to ask you a few questions, if that's alright." Taehyung nodded. Mark smiled and said, "Had a seat. So, can you tell me your name?" Taehyung reached into his hoodie pocket and quickly wrote down a response. "Kim Taehyung." "Nice to meet you, Taehyung," Mark said, flashing another smile. When is your birthday?" "December 13th. "Good," Mark said, writing something down. "Do you like school?" "No, but my friend make it better." "It's good to have friends." The conversation went on like this for a few more minutes until Mark started to ask more serious questions. "What happened when you get in trouble, Taehyung?" Taehyung bit his lips, looked out of the window. He stared up at the cloud for almost a minute. "Taehyung," Mark asked. One of the clouds reminded Taehyung of a dragon. Jungkook liked dragons. He felt like a hand on his shoulder and flinched. "Sorry," Mark said, pulling his hand away. "I know this is hard, Taehyung, but your father isn't here right now. He can't hurt you." Taehyung took a deep breath through his nose and sickly wrote something down. "He hits me." "Is that where you got that bruises?" Mark asked. After reading the note, Taehyung put a head up to his cheek and nodded again. "I heard you fractured some ribs. Did your dad did that too?" Taehyung's hand gripped onto the seat. His eyes started to tear up, but he nodded anyway. As Mark asked more questions, Taehyung grew more and more distant from this world until his mind was filled with clouds and he could imagine himself as a dragon who could fly far away. That night, Taehyung tossed the turn in his hospital bed, careful though he didn't want to damage his ribs anymore. Try as he might, he couldn't sleep. The seats felt too tight and his heart monitor was too loud. Soon he gave in to his restlessness and threw the tight seats off of him. He swung his leg over the edge of the bed and sat up. His bare feet touched the cold tile floor, almost sending shiver up to his spine. He stood up and walked out of the room to room the halls. His finger tracked over the walls as he walked. He glanced at all the paintings on the walls, avoiding eye contact with anyone who rushed by him. After getting bored of the art on the wall, he looked around and his feet counted the floor tiles. He reached 116 before his neck started to hurt. He lifted his head up and tilted his head side to side to ease the tension. That's when he saw it. Room 4 in the ICU, the room where his mother died. "Next day, your father will be going to a trial next week," Mark said, looking at Taehyung through the rear mirror. Taehyung stayed slumped in his seat, looking out of the car window. He watched as they passed by the houses and other people. "There is a nice lady who said she would be more than happy to take you in for now. Her name is Park Minji." Taehyung sighed through his nose and dug his hand into his hoodie pocket. "We can stop by your house real quickly so you can pack whatever you need." After a few minutes, they arrived at his house. Mark waited waits in the car while Taehyung goes inside for the last time. He walked into the house. He couldn't help but still have the same fear, as if Mr. Kim could suddenly appear from the corner. He goes to his room and grabs his bag from his closet. He shoved a few things of clothes in, a few t-shirts, sweatpants, socks, boxers, and extra pair of sneakers. He then looks his teddy bear in his hand, picked up his saved up money, $100.37. Taehyung, wake up, Mark whispered. He shook the boy's shoulder lightly until Taehyung's eyes fluttered open. Hey bud, grab your stuff and we will meet Mrs. Park. Taehyung sat up in the seat, looked out the open car door past Mark. It was dark out now, but Taehyung could make out a two-storehouse squeezed in between trees. He bit his bottom lips and unbuckled his seatbelt. Grabbing his bag, he slowly stepped out of the car, followed Mark up and the dirty path. As they grew closer to the house, Taehyung could feel his heart pounding in his chest. His hands were shaking by the time they got to the door. Mark rang. His hands were shaking by the time they got the door. Mark rang the doorbell, causing Taehyung to jump a little. It's alright, Tae, Mark said in a calm tone. I'm sure you will love Minji. Easy for you to say, Taehyung thought to himself. You are not the one being handed off to a complete stranger. The door opened to a woman with light brown skin and curled black hair. A bright smile was revealed when she saw Mark and Taehyung. Oh, hi Mark, he greeted. She then turned to Taehyung. Her eyes were soft hazel-ops. Hello Taehyung, she said sweetly. I'm so happy to have you here. Are you ready to move in? Taehyung shrugged and raised his eyebrows as if to say, I guess. Minji smiled and allowed him to step inside. The first thing Taehyung noticed was the sweet smell of pine and cinnamon. To his left was what looked like to be a living room with soft tan-colored couches and pine-cone painted pillars. A small fire crackled in the stone fireplace, keeping the place toasty. To his right was a dining room with a table set up of 6 people. Taehyung got scared that there were more people living here, and it must be short because Minji clenched. Don't worry, we are the only one here, if that's what you are worried about, Minji said. Taehyung nodded and adjusted his strap of the backpack. Here, I'll show you your room, Taehyung. Let me first just say goodbye to my friend, Mark. Minji turned back around to Mark. Thank you, Mark. Have a safe drive. Thank you, Minji, Mark said, smiling. Bye, Taehyung. I will be in touch. And with that, Mark walked away, leaving Taehyung in an unfamiliar place. Minji closed the door and looked over to Taehyung again. You can go ahead and take your shoes off. Just leave them by the door. Taehyung nodded and took his sneakers off. He placed them neatly next to the rest of the shoes. It felt weird acting like this was his house already. When the dishes were done, Minji announced that she had to run some errands. She asked if Taehyung wanted to come along, and the boy nodded. He had been stuck inside the hospital for so long that he sounded nice to go out for a bit. Awesome, Minji cheered. You can go ahead, get dressed. I gotta find where I put my car keys. She laughed. Taehyung couldn't help but giggle and whisper, for her laugh was very contagious. He went upstairs to his room and looked at the folded pile of clothes. He looked through and found a blue t-shirt and a pair of jeans and a black zip-up hoodie. After quickly change, he went down the stairs and waited by the door. After putting his shoes on, after another 2 minutes, Minji came out of the kitchen thrilled to have finally found her keys. Alright, let's roll, she said, opening the door, and they walked out of her car next to the house. You can sit in the front. I'm probably gonna have groceries filled up in the back once I'm done. I only need a few things, but once I enter a store, I seem to find more and more things I needed. It's my weakness, she clenched. Taehyung smiled and climbed into the passenger seat. Minji started up the car and two buckled up before she dropped down the dirt path, one onto the road and into town. Minji was out at the store and Taehyung was inside the car waiting for her. As he waited, he looked around all the people going about their business. That's when he saw him standing in clear view just 15 feet away was Jungkook. Taehyung came out of the car before he could do something. Jungkook turned around and saw him. Oh my god, Taehyung! Jungkook was shocked and ran, hugging the small boy in a tight hug. I missed you a lot. You didn't even say goodbye and I didn't know you were where you were. Jungkook said, tear rolled down his eyes. Taehyung wanted to speak, but his mind wouldn't let him. He just held on to the boy even tighter. It wasn't until another 3 minutes went by that they calmed down. Jungkook pulled away from hug and looked into Taehyung's eyes. I missed you so much. I didn't realize just how much you meant to me until you were gone. Sorry, that's so cheesy, Jungkook said, staring at to laugh through his tears. Taehyung shook his head and smiled. They both laughed a little out of pure joy to reunite again. I'm sorry I disappeared. Taehyung spoke. He couldn't continue his sentence. Jungkook patted his pocket until he felt the notepad he started to bring with him, just in case he ever saw Taehyung again. He pulled it out and fished out a pencil as well. He offered it to Taehyung, who took it gratefully. I didn't know what else to do. I freaked out so much that I couldn't think. I didn't want to be taken away by some stranger. I don't know. The whole thing is kind of a blur. Taehyung handed the notebook back to Jungkook. It's okay. I'm glad you're okay, Taehyung, Jungkook said once he was finished reading. Are you okay now? Who are you living with? Taehyung was about to write down his response, but that's when Minji showed up. Oh, she said when she saw an unfamiliar face. That was Jungkook. Hello there. Is this a friend of yours, Taehyung? She said with a smile. Taehyung nodded. Oh, well, it's nice to meet you. She left her card by the car to shake Jungkook's hand. I am Amen, Park Minji, Kim Taehyung's mom. Jungkook smiled as he shook Minji's hand and bowed to her. She smiled really nice. She seems really nice. "Hi, I'm Jungkook," he replied. Meanwhile, Taehyung stood there frozen. The word mom rang in his head, even if his first name was still there. Came in front of it, it still felt off. He didn't know how to feel about it. "Well, I still have a few more places to go," Minji said. "But Taehyung, you can go ahead and catch up with your friend Jungkook. We will meet up at the pizza place in about 2.5 hours. Taehyung smiled and nodded enthusiastically. "Awesome, alright, see you in a bit," she said, going back to her cart and loaded up the car. Taehyung hopped in excitement and took off down the road with his best friend Jungkook. When the time came for Taehyung to go, Minji met up with them at the pizza shop. She found them sitting at a table out front, laughing together. Minji smiled at herself. She was delighted to see how happy Taehyung was. She walked up to the two and waved. Taehyung looked up and waved back, then looked back to Jungkook. "Alright, I will see you around, Taehyung," Jungkook said, standing up. Taehyung stood and with him and nodded before giving him a tight hug. Jungkook giggled and hugged back. "How about tomorrow?" Minji suggested. The boy looked over at her curiously. "For dinner," Minji continued. "We could pick Jungkook up and have dinner at my place." The boys' eyes lit up and they both nodded in agreement. "Excellent," Minji said, clapping her hand. Could I bring my mom?" Jungkook asked rather sheepishly. "Of course," Minji replied. "Do you guys like pizza pasta?" "Yeah, my mom and I love that stuff," Jungkook said. Taehyung smiled and nodded in agreement. That was a special dish his mom used to make every now and then, too. "Alright, pizza pasta it is," Minji said after Jungkook gave her his address. Taehyung hugged his friend one more time before following Minji to the car. "Oh, would you like a ride, hun?" Minji asked, standing by the car door. "No thanks," Jungkook said. "I still gotta go do a few things before I go home. Thank you though." "Alright then, see you later, Jungkook," Minji said before getting into her car. "See you," Jungkook said. He waved to Taehyung, smiled, and they drove off. "Mom, I'm home," Jungkook said, walking onto the door with grocery bags. He placed the bags down onto the counter and started to put cans away. When his mom came out of the bedroom, "Hi, City," his mother, Mrs. Jian, greeted him in a soft voice. She was wrapped up in a pink robe and her hair was messed. Jungkook clenched at the sight. "Did you have a nice nap?" he asked, looking up at her. "I did," his mom replied. "It has been a week since she was well enough to come home from the hospital. The doctor wanted her to take it easy though, just for a few days before she could go back to work." The doctor was concerned with her health when she did started working again, but Jungkook assured him that things would be different this time. He had a job now, meaning she wouldn't have to work so much anymore. He made his first paycheck today and he put it all towards groceries. Jungkook's mom reached down and pulled out a cereal box from one of the bags. "Oh, I got it, Mom," Jungkook said, taking the box from her. "You should relax." Mrs. Jian let out a laugh. "Oh, sus, I feel fine beside I have doing nothing but relax these past few days. If I relax another minute I may lose it. Okay, how about a walk after we are done? Jungkook offered. He put the box of care on the top of the fridge. That sounds good actually, Mrs. Yan replied. I will go get dressed after I help you put these groceries away, she stated. Jungkook sighed but smiled. He was glad his mom was back. Everyone, there is left one last episode of this Taekook Little Space One Shot. I hope you will love it, and whatever you feel about the story, tell me in the comment section. I'll see you again with so much love. Thank you so much for your love and support and all. Be happy and healthy and take care of yourself as the weather is too hot, so please be careful and drink a lot of water, be hydrated, also don't go out and you know what. So yeah, be careful, and I'll see you again with the last episode of this series. Bye.